They say you can't go home again. I think the truth is, sometimes home won't let you leave. My name is Ben, and the town of Northfield, Vermont is a scar on my heart. It's the kind of postcard-perfect New England town people dream about. White church steeples, a bubbling creek, and maple trees so old they seem to hold the secrets of the Revolution in their gnarled trunks. My secret was buried in the woods behind my childhood house, at the base of the largest maple of them all. We called him the Man in the Maple. It started as a game, as these things often do for children. My best friend Leo and I were 8, masters of our small wooded domain. The big maple was our fortress, our spaceship, our castle. Its roots formed a small dark hollow at its base, just big enough for 2 boys to squeeze into. One afternoon, while pretending the root hollow was a dragon's cave, Leo dared me. "I bet you're too scared to say his name 3 times. "Whose name?" I asked. "The Man in the Maple," he said, his voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. "They say if you say, 'I see you' 3 times into the hollow, he'll see you back." It was stupid kid stuff. We'd heard snippets of older kids telling the story, a local legend passed down like a bad coin. I, of course, took the dare. I crouched down, put my face close to the dark, damp earth inside the roots and whispered, "I see you. I see you. I see you." We waited, breath held, for a full minute. Nothing happened. We laughed, called each other idiots, and went back to playing, the dare forgotten. That night, I woke up to the sound of tapping. It was a soft, patient tap, tap, tap on my window. My room was on the 2nd floor. There was no tree near the house. I crept out of bed, my heart a tiny drum, and peeled back the curtain. The moon was full, bathing our backyard in a silvery light. And there, standing under the big maple at the edge of the woods, was a man. He was tall and impossibly thin, dressed in dark clothes that seemed to blend into the tree's shadow. His face was pale and elongated, and I couldn't make out any features except for the fact that he was looking directly up at my window. He raised one long arm, and with a single slender finger, pointed right at me. I dropped the curtain and scrambled back into bed, pulling the covers over my head. I told myself it was a dream, a nightmare. But he was there the next night, and the next, always in the same spot, always under the maple, always pointing. I told my parents. They checked the yard, found nothing, and blamed my imagination. "Too much sugar before bed, Benji," my dad said, ruffling my hair. They couldn't see him. I realized, with a cold, sickening certainty, that he was only there for me. The pointing became the worst part. It wasn't threatening, it was acknowledging. It was a constant, silent reminder. I see you too. The game changed when we turned 12. The dares got darker. Leo, ever the brave one, said the real story was that if you left an offering for him, something you loved, he'd leave you alone. To prove it, he took his favorite baseball glove, a Rawlings mitt his grandfather had given him, and left it in the root hollow. The next morning, the glove was gone. In its place was a single, perfect maple leaf, its autumn crimson so vibrant it looked dipped in blood. Leo was ecstatic. "It worked! He took it! He's gonna leave me alone!" He bragged about it all day at school. That afternoon, Leo didn't show up for our bike ride. His mom found him in his backyard. He'd fallen from the oak tree he'd climbed 1,000 times. The doctors said it was a tragic accident, a freak fall. He broke his neck and died instantly. At his funeral, I stood numb, unable to process it. As I walked back to my parents' car, a flash of color caught my eye. There, tucked into the wreath on his coffin, was a single, perfectly crimson maple leaf. I moved away for college and never went back. I built a life in Burlington, a life of traffic noise and street lights that burned all night, leaving no room for shadows or pointing men. For 20 years, I was free. Then my father died. The old house was mine now, and it had to be emptied and sold. I drove down to Northfield with a knot of dread in my stomach that tightened with every familiar mile. The town was exactly the same. It was like stepping into a museum of my own childhood. The house was empty, hollowed out by the funeral and the estate sale. The silence was oppressive. I worked quickly, boxing up the last of my father's things, desperate to be gone before sunset. But the paperwork took longer than expected. The sun dipped below the green mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple I'd forgotten existed. Night fell. I was trapped. I decided to sleep in my old room. It was just one night. I was a grown man. The rational Burlington part of my brain laughed at the childhood fear. It was a story, Ben. A game. I lay in the old bed, in the dark, listening to the sound of the house settling. Every creak was a footstep. Every rustle of the wind was a whisper. I must have drifted off. Tap, tap, tap. My eyes flew open. The sound was not on the window. It was on the bedroom door. A soft, patient knocking. 3 precise raps. I stopped breathing. The rational part of my brain evaporated. I was 8 years old again, terrified and alone. The doorknob began to turn, slowly, deliberately. I watched, paralyzed, as the door swung open. The hallway was dark, but a figure stood silhouetted in the doorway. It was tall, thin. It filled the frame. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching me. And then it raised its arm. A long, slender finger extended from the darkness, pointing across the room. Pointing at me. A wet, rasping sound filled the air, like leaves skittering over dry stone. It was trying to speak. "You," it whispered, "came back." I did the only thing I could think of. I screamed. I screamed with every ounce of air in my lungs, a raw, primal sound of pure terror. The figure in the doorway vanished, just disappeared. I spent the rest of the night locked in my car, shivering despite the warm night, watching the dark windows of the house. At first light, I did what I should have done 20 years earlier. I went to the woods. The big maple was still there, larger than ever, its branches like grasping arms. The root hollow was a dark, waiting mouth. I didn't have a beloved object to offer. I had nothing but my fear and my rage. I fell to my knees in front of the hollow. "What do you want?" I yelled, my voice cracking. "Why are you doing this? Leo was my friend." The woods were silent. No birds sang, no insects chirped. And then a voice answered. It didn't come from the hollow. It came from behind me. It was my father's voice, but worn thin and frayed, like an old recording. "He wasn't an offering, Ben," the voice said, full of a sadness so deep it felt bottomless. "He was a lesson." I spun around. There was no one there. But on the ground where the voice had been lay a small, faded photograph. It was a picture of my grandfather as a young man, standing proudly next to the big maple when it was just a sapling. And tucked into the corner of the photo was another crimson leaf, fresh as the day it fell. I sold the house for a fraction of its value to a developer from Boston who didn't believe in local legends. As the bulldozers moved in, I heard they hit a snag. The big maple wouldn't fall. Its wood was like iron, and the machinery broke against it. They finally had to leave it, a solitary sentinel in the middle of a new subdivision of identical vinyl-sided houses. I try to tell myself it's over, but I know better. I live in a 10th-floor apartment now, There are no maple trees for miles. But sometimes, late at night, I'll hear it. A soft, patient tap, tap, tap on my balcony glass. And when I look out, all I see is the empty city skyline and the faint, ghostly reflection of a thin man in the glass, pointing right at me. He's not in Northfield anymore. He's wherever I am. Because I didn't just see him, I acknowledged him. And some things, once seen, never stop seeing you back. Small towns hold on to their secrets tightly. What's the local legend from your hometown that still haunts you? Share it in the comments below. Sometimes, the most terrifying stories aren't found in books, but in the whispers we heard on the playground.